tonight. So, Mandy, do you want to check and see if
Yeah,
we're
waiting for it
actually...
to pop up.
Does it normally send a notification right there?
Yeah,
So,
it does.
yeah, we just want to make sure that, hey, if you actually are watching this, that that it is actually live, because I would hate to start giving advice and that it's not out there.
It's good. I got the
Good.
pop up. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me turn the volume down on this because I had it up. There we go. Turn the volume down there. Okay, well, yeah, like I said, my name's Al Longoria. I am a dog trainer here in Houston, Texas. I've been training dogs for about 14 years now. I've been a professional dog trainer, getting really, really close to the big decade, 10 years of training dogs and helping families. I do a lot of different things. I train pet dogs. We help rehabilitate dogs that have aggression issues. I also help dogs that are looking to improve their obedience and competitive obedience. I do a couple of things that are unique. I actually train my own German Shepherds for a protection dog sport, where I am also a protection helper, the guy that suits up and gets to play fight with the dogs. And I have my own organization here in town that we actually host events and do all that. But the format for tonight essentially is well, what I want to do is I want to bring a ton of value to any of my clients, but also to anybody else that's on the internet that's looking for help with their dogs. If you ask any dog training question, Mandy will get that question on her screen, and then she'll put it into the queue. We've got maybe, what do you think, about 15, 20 questions on the list right now?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe
Yeah, we've got
15.
about 15. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions to go through, but if you ask your question while we're going, we'll make sure to stop and at the end of that one particular question and answer that. So I guess I'm ready for question number one. So if you are, Mandy, what's up first?
Why don't you use a spray bottle to correct dogs?
So the reason that I don't use a spray bottle is not because it's not effective for some dogs. I've actually, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I was using spray bottles for dogs. But the more I got to think about it, the more I thought, there's probably a better way to go about correcting a dog. So the main reason that I don't actually correct dogs with spray bottles, let's just act like this bag of treats is a spray bottle, is one, I don't like showing the dog an object and threatening them with it. And that really is the biggest reason. The other thing is that I've seen dogs that, that are pretty aggressive and that you're trying to correct them, and spraying them in the face only kind of annoys them a little bit more. And I just thought of a third reason. The third reason is some dogs actually like getting sprayed in the face and they'll start licking it, and then you're actually rewarding unwanted behavior. So the main reason that I don't use a spray bottle to correct dogs is because I have a background of training dogs for protection work, and in that, when we do train protection dogs or sport protection dogs, one of the things that we do is we raise our arm up in a threat to the dog. And normally we have the stick in our hand, and we actually teach dogs in the sport that they're allowed to bite the bad guy in those instances. So what I don't like to do, especially people that are considering, doing that kind of work with their own personal dogs, getting into sport, that you take an object, you make a threat in the direction, and you actually correct them, and then they become afraid of that thing, and then they actually won't do the work because you corrected them with that. There's a lot of different ways that you can administer punishment. One of them is just by being real patient and assertive, and yes, you can also punish dogs with other training tools, but I do not use the spray bottle or the can, the tin can filled with rocks and shaking that at a dog. And I don't also use a throw chain. There's like some really old school training where you take a chain and you throw it at the feet of the dog. I've never ever used that. I've never used the can with the rocks, and I've used the spray bottle, but I could probably count on one hand how many times I've done that. So if you're considering finding effective ways to punish your dog, I don't think that a spray bottle really is your best bet, because one, it can reward dogs. Two, you're teaching the dog that your body is threatening, and then lastly, that some dogs just are very tolerant of it, and it doesn't actually communicate to them that you didn't want them to do that. Okay, what's next?
When I walk my dog, he walks He walks by my side with his head down sniffing. How do I get him to pick up his head and watch me?
This is a good question, and I actually experienced this a couple of days ago, or a few days ago. I was out walking with a client and their dog. The concrete was particularly hot, so we couldn't actually, walk on the sidewalk, walk on the pavement. So we had to get on grass, and in this particular instance, the dog, as soon as we hit the grass, the dog's nose immediately went down to the ground. And I'll be honest with you, the dirt is very, very interesting to a dog. There's a term that we use in dog training as professionals, and it's called competing motivator. And dirt is a very powerful competing motivator for dogs. So what's to be done about it? Well, the first thing that I actually do about it is that I spend a fair amount of time in places with improved surfaces. So on concrete, in your driveway, on your sidewalk, inside your home, on tile floors, on wood floors, any kind of finished floor. Carpet isn't so great, but any of those finished floors. And then I spend an inordinate amount of time delivering the reward to the dog over the top of their head. As I do that, we began to create this habit of teaching the dog to bias their head upwards, because that's where the reward is coming from. So with your dog that's actually struggling, dropping their head down to the ground every time that they hit dirt, well, I want you to spend maybe the next 4 to 5 days feeding them their evening time meal on the side of your body that you actually want them to be on, and make a routine of that, and then maybe go out and practice. Inch your way onto the grass, make a really big reward for the dog over the top of the grass where their head is up, and then start adding, duration to the amount of time that they're keeping their head up. But that's the way I do it. One piece of advice just for everybody, because everybody does this, myself included. If your dog drops their head and you want them to get their head up and they have a leash and collar and you pull up, that will only pull their neck and the bottom of their body up. It won't actually tilt the head. You're going to have to access the nose through food, or you're going to have some kind of toy. You'll have to have some kind of toy like a Kong or a ball and a string that's going to activate the eyes to get them to come up. So just there's a couple of things that might actually be useful. Okay, what's next?
Okay. Someone asked, why do you say, "Are you ready"?
Yeah, I'm glad that somebody finally asked this. So if you ever hear when I'm training with a dog, I'll ask the dog, "Hey, are you ready?" And then after I do that, I'll give them some kind of cue. Like if we're playing the treat toss game, for example, if that's a game that we use to teach dogs to come when called, I'll put a piece of food in my hand, and then I'll say, "Are you ready?" as I'm shaking my hand and I'm putting those two together. And what ends up happening is the dog ends up being like, "Oh, anytime that you say, 'Are you ready?' that always, almost certainly immediately leads to me getting rewarded by something that I really like." So, "Are you ready?" is what's called a prompt. So when you use a prompt and you've associated it properly, there's actually a spike in dopamine before the dog has done the thing that you want them to do. And then they're more likely to actually do the thing you want them to do because they believe a reward is coming. They do the thing you want, and then you use what's called a moment marker, like a clicker, or you say the word good or yes, and then you feed your dog. That right there, psychologically, that's putting dopamine in front of the behavior, dopamine behind the behavior, and the dog's like, "Oh man, this is really great." So we can use that to make it easier for ourselves to engage with the dog by creating a prompt. So if you're looking for a really easy way to do that, one thing that I recommend is if your dog's, sitting in front of you or on their place and you have a treat pouch, have your hands out of the treat pouch, ask the question, "Are you ready?" And then when your dog looks up at you, reach into your pouch and give them some food. Do 20 or 30 repetitions, and you're going to see how if you say, "Are you ready?" they'll come in and really focus on you, and it can be particularly useful. So we use "Are you ready?" to prompt dogs to get better attention and to increase the likelihood that they're going to do the obedience skill that we have for them next.
Okay.
Right, next.
All right. What are the initial skills you work on with a new puppy?
Yeah, so this is a pretty good segue. Well, one of the things that I want to do with a puppy, and I think that it's really important, as much content as we're putting out, I put out a lot of stuff where I'm working with a dog and I'm very silent. But in actuality, whenever I get a puppy, my own personal puppies, the thing that I want to teach them is I want to teach them the meaning of my voice. I want these dogs to hear my voice in context of something that's important, or something that's important to them. So let me just be real practical for a second. I like to be feeding dogs out of my hand and saying good boy buddy or good puppy girl as I'm petting them. And what's happening is the dog is like, oh, okay, so you're actually your words are actually associated directly to me eating food and you stroking me across my back, which is a really, really powerful moment for the dog. I'm not necessarily saying the dog's name, I will sometimes, but the first thing I want to teach is just the importance of you hear me talking to you, and it's at the moment that you're receiving this immense amount of pleasure and this immense amount of comfort by me petting you. So that's one kind of general thing that I'm working at. To contrast that a little bit, if you just got a new puppy, I understand the excitement that comes with it, but be careful how much you use your voice. Be especially careful how much you use their name. And if they're doing something that you don't want them to do, please don't use their name to tell them no, because that's really a great way to begin to hurt your recall. Okay, now let's get practical and kind of a more, let's get this a little bit more practical. Let me get specific here. What skills do I think that pet owners should begin to teach? I think that pet owners should immediately begin to teach the dog the place stay. It's a very, very useful skill. I think pet owners should definitely deploy a lot of reward for the dogs for pottying in the correct area. Don't make it too complicated for yourself. If you've just got a new puppy, not too many potty areas. This may make sense to some of you guys, or if you're doing this, not to make any fun of you, but if you bought a bunch of potty pads and you have them spread throughout your house and you're using that as a way to potty train your dog, that's going to be it's going to be really difficult for you to really tell the dog precisely that you don't want them to go in your home. If you're going to use potty pads and because you're in an apartment or high rise, it might not be a bad idea to put it on your balcony or in one room that you're going to really focus in on and showing the dog that that's the one place to go. So you got the play stay, you got the potty training in the specific spot that you want the dog to use it for maybe the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then the last thing that I do when I'm a little bit different, I just love to show the dogs how to play together with me. I love to have the ball on the string. I love to have tug toys, and I like to get on the floor with my puppies. I also, for me, myself, and you might not be like this, but I like to get on the floor, on the ground, laying down, and have the puppies crawling over me. I'm wearing a hoodie. I'm letting them bite me. But that's something specific that I want my dogs to do. So those are kind of the big things I'm going to teach. The meaning of my voice, that I want you to lay on your place, that's really good. That I want you to know specifically where you should use the restroom, and that, hey, I'm way more fun than any other dog that you'll ever meet. Those are the big ones for me.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Sarah has a question. How do you get your dog to respond to commands faster instead of a slow sit or a lazy?
That's a really good question. So one thing that you can do is you can prompt your dog by asking them, "Are you ready?" prior to the command. Okay. So and I know you've already done that. So just make sure that you're using the prompt. You probably want to bring your voice up a little bit. So that way it's not necessarily the calming voice that I teach so many of you guys to have. You just want to make sure that the dog understands, like, hey, that you're a little up. The other thing that you can do, and I know you guys happen to have a flirt pole. If you have a flirt pole, if you have a ball and a string, play with the dog a little bit, have a leash on the dog. And then when you take the flirt pole up, okay, get the dog to do the behavior that you want, like maybe jumping on their place or getting into a sit. It doesn't matter if it's fast the first time, but get them into the sit, and then once they're sitting, say good dog, and then begin to play with the flirt pole again. I'll tell you what, if you get 5 to 10 repetitions of creating the sit, it isn't all that fast, the dog does it, and you immediately say the marker word, like yes or good dog, followed by the very fast movement of the toy. It's not going to take very long for your dog to figure out that the way to continue the game is to get into the behavior very rapidly. And this is a good idea. I think I'm going to add this to my list of stuff that I want to demonstrate for people because it's pretty easy for me to explain. It does require patience. You do need to have your training tools if your dog doesn't already have a really good sit command. Let's say your dog does have a good sit command and they're going to do it slow. Don't worry about those first couple of repetitions. Just say sit. Be patient enough for them to do it, then say yes or good, and then bring the toy out and play with the dog. But that's a great way to actually speed up the obedience. Okay,
good.
Next.
Okay, someone said, my 8-month-old German Shepherd is afraid of new people entering the house or if strangers get too close out in public. I'm very confident in training and he catches on to everything I have taught him, but I don't know the best way to go about changing this issue. Definitely fear-based. I have a shock collar, but don't want to use it incorrectly.
Yeah, I don't think the remote collar as a tool for this particular instance is really where you want to start. I'm not going to say that it's not useful, but I do think that there's a lot of other things you can do. Let me just kind of give you one kind of macro thing that I think about. So when I get new puppies, about the time that they're 14, 15, 16 weeks old, and especially, and even older, I will begin to have people over to my house multiple times a week for probably about 4 to 5 weeks. For this specific reason, because you want the dog to understand that there are going to be people coming over. If people aren't coming over and it's out of the norm for people to come over, then yes, it can be scary for the dog because it can never predict when it's going to happen. It has to happen often enough. So, invite your friends, invite your family over, invite people from your church over, something like that. Watch football or baseball games or just something social where people can come over. But that's one thing that you can do. But then inside of that, what do you actually do? Well, place training is actually excellent for this. I'll give you an example. So right now, as I was waiting to start the live show, I was waiting for Mandy to show up. And I had Gabby practicing her place whenever Mandy got here, and it allowed me the opportunity to go open the door, greet Mandy, say hello, and then Gabby was able to come over and meet her. But if your dog is a little bit afraid and you have your leash on them, you put them on their place, you've shown them how good it is, and then you have strangers come over or strangers to them, well, you could get one family member to kind of watch them and kind of make sure that they stay on their place. Make sure that your company doesn't come and immediately come try to pet the heck out of the dog, scaring it even more. Just try to help the dog out of that and then help the dog in that. And then as the dog is in their place with the people and you're rewarding, you're going to see that the dog is actually going to begin to relax and not necessarily be so afraid and try to run away. And that's one of the best ways to use place training. There is room for the remote collar in this, but I'm very hesitant to give any advice right now about the remote collar in this situation because you're not going to, if the dog doesn't have a trained skill, let me make sure I want to say this real clearly. If your dog doesn't have a trained skill and you go and use a remote collar, you're going to screw up the dog even more. Do not deploy the remote collar unless your dog already has training that it understands. And you need to be sure that the dog really understands what it is that you're asking them to do before you go pressing buttons on a remote. It's a powerful tool. Man, I sure love the thing, but that doesn't mean that it can't be misused. Just like any other training tool, it can be misused. And I would hate for you to put the puppy into a position to where you would lose the ability to use all the remarkable things that this tool can help you with down the road just because you're trying to go a little bit faster. So please just be very careful with the use of your remote collar. If you want to learn more about remote collar training, this is the reason you get a professional like myself or somebody that has years of experience with them to kind of coach you through the proper and humane use of this very versatile tool.
So when it comes to the strangers out in public, what?
Yeah, okay. So, thanks. Yeah, thanks for redirecting me there. Like, as far as strangers in the public, and this is advice I give all the time: take your place training, go in the front yard, and that's out in public. Most people, that like right now in front of my home, there's probably kids running around, dogs are out there as well, cars are driving by. Get out into your front yard. Go to a local park and But when you go there, don't try to do what everybody else is doing in the park. Really focus in on what you're trying to communicate to the dog by keeping it very simple. We probably, like the video that I showed you this morning that I made, is that probably going to come out tomorrow? But anyway, for any of you guys that are watching this, I made a video about how to teach dogs how to place. It's about a 30-second video, but I think it's going to be really useful for y'all to see the components of how I teach a dog to stay. And so in that, if you just go in the front yard after you spent about a week teaching the dog this inside the home, teach the dog to do the same thing in the front yard as people are passing by. Advocate for your dog when people are maybe coming to pet the dog that's afraid, but then also encourage your dog and reward your dog when it makes a good decision about staying on their place, where you're really providing your strength and protecting them and encouraging them, but not necessarily feeling sorry for them. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy.
Okay, well, you kind of already answered this. How should I socialize my dog, and when should I start?
So you should start socializing your dog probably about the time that they're 14 weeks. So if you have an 8-week-old puppy right now and you're wondering how to go about socializing, I want you to go back earlier in the video or earlier in the live stream and listen to what are the skills that you should be working on. But then once you've actually started those skills, which obviously place training, and then also learning how to be on the left-hand side, that's an additional one that you want to teach the dog. Once your dog kind of knows how to be on your left-hand side, is taking food readily for you, then you should go out and socialize your dog. Now, what does socializing mean? Well, I've been using this, and it's going to sound kind of crazy right now, but as humans, we would never socialize our kids or our teenagers at a rave. And I think that that's basically what a dog park is. A dog park is a rave, and it doesn't necessarily teach your dog how to behave, to have good manners in the presence of other humans and other dogs. Your dog, depending, the vast majority of dog, but depending on how it came into this world, spent the better part of 6 weeks playing with other dogs, and then probably comes to your home. Maybe you have some other dogs and continues to play with them. So the dog doesn't necessarily need to continue to play more with other dogs to learn manners. The way that it actually learns its manners and to socialize is to be in a pack of dogs that are under control, in a group of people that are calm, and being in public places. So public parks, your local coffee shop, your local pet store, hardware stores, any of these places that you can go with your dog is really a fantastic way to socialize them and to teach them that. Socialization doesn't mean, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't mean that anybody can just come and pet your dog and cuddle them. You really have to read your dog and understand who gets to touch your dog, who gets to give treats. The vast majority of the time, for my dogs, the answer to most people is no. So again, let me just kind of wrap this up a little bit. But I think socialization should happen after the dog understands some basic skills, like walking next to your side. Doesn't have to be perfect, but walking next to your side, understands how to stay on a place, has all of its immunizations, and then also now you're going into public places, but not dog parks, to socialize your dog. Okay? All right, next.
How can I get my dog to stop pulling me?
This is like, and it's funny because I had the question, I added the question onto the list, and literally, I was looking at the questions that I was getting from the echoes, and I think I had that question maybe about 7 or 8 times on there.
A day.
I get that question more than anything you can imagine. So that, and how do I get a dog to stop barking? And so the answer to how do you get a dog to stop barking, well, the general question is you don't, because dogs, they bark. So how do you get a dog to stop pulling? Well, the first thing is don't let them. You're like, well, that's really easy to say. Well, yeah, it is really easy to say, and it's actually not so easy to do. One of the problems that we have whenever we're working with dogs is that we want to go somewhere. We put a collar on them. That's the first thing that we probably go buy at the pet store. You buy a collar for the dog, this big old 1-inch collar that's on their neck, and then you strap your leash on. You're like, yay, look at me. I got my sweet little 10-pound puppy that's going to be a 140-pound knuckle dragger in about a year and a half. So you get the dog to stop pulling by, one, when they pull, that doesn't yield the result that they want, which is the ability to continue to move forward. So if you have a collar on the dog, if you have a leash on the dog, and the dog begins to pull, simply don't move. Now, is that going to prevent you from getting to the destination that you want to go? It is, but this is why you have to train. I recommend highly to people to getting in their driveways, getting on the sidewalks in front of their homes, getting in the street in front of your house, and actually going nowhere. And then every time that your dog tries to pull you, head the opposite way. And that's going to really do a very nice job of showing the dog that, hey, you don't get to lead me. If you begin to lead me, I'm going to walk the other way. Now, there is technique involved. I can't tell you how many times I've described the technique and people struggle with it, but simply speaking, I put the least amount of leash that I possibly can into my left hand. I lock my arm out and I begin to walk. And when the dog gets in front of me, I just go the other way. Now, in conjunction with that, and here's the real thing that's going to stop the pulling, is how much reward happens when the leash is actually slack and the dog is with you. And I'm not just talking about treats. Are you praising the dog? Are you petting your dog? Are you giving food? Are you going to play a game with them? Is there something that's there inside of the leash that's actually going to bring value to the dog? And if that is not incredibly valuable, then just think about how amazing it is for your dog to be outside and how much they just want to run and play. So you got to make the area inside the leash highly valuable, and that right there, that's the work that people have to do. Stopping the pulling is easy, okay? Getting a dog to walk nicely with you and to pay attention to you, that's where the real work is. And not to be a Debbie Downer here or anything, but you'll be working on it forever. You'll be working on it forever, teaching your dogs how good it is to be with you, because that's what it means to be in a relationship. So, anyway, yeah. Right, I'm talking too much. I do that sometimes.
Yeah, and we just got some more questions on Instagram, but I think well, I mean, I was considering.
But
How do you help a rescue dog gain confidence? He hides under the table instead of going out to potty.
Okay, yeah, I've got a good one on that one. Yeah, I want to answer that.
Okay.
So the first thing that you're going to do is the dog is no longer a rescue. That day is over. If you right now are watching this and you have a dog that's been living in your home that came from a shelter, came from a rescue organization, and it's been living in your home for 2 days, that dog is no longer a rescue dog. It was. It's past tense. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll do them a great favor by now removing that label from the dog, and now they are just your family dog. They are a member of the family. They are no longer rescue dogs. Look, you hear me kind of like, you guys know me, you know my voice, you're starting to figure it out. I'm real passionate about this because I just think that we weaken dogs saying like, oh, well, my rescue dog this and my rescue dog that. That's my stepchild this and my stepchild that. No, it's a dog. It's like 99.874% of the time, it's now a dog. It's not a rescue dog. Yeah, they've had hard pasts. Like you and I, all of us, we've all had difficult things that happened in our past, and some of them are unfortunate, but not adding a label to it isn't going to make it any better. So changing your dog from a rescue dog to your family dog to whatever their name is and that they're valuable to you, that's the first thing that you do. And now I need you to repeat whatever the question was.
Just the rescue dog needs to gain confidence. He hides under the table instead of
so like hiding under the table, because I see this, and this is a piece of advice that we give a lot. So you brought the rescue dog in, now they're a family dog, you put a leash on them inside the home. I have a real simple way of raising my dogs, and that simple way is they have a playpen, they have a crate, and then whenever they come out of either one of those, the playpen or the crate, they immediately go onto a collar or a harness with a line, because then if they end up getting under something that I don't want them to get to, well, my arms are long, but most people aren't like me. Go and get the leash and get the dog. And why was the dog underneath the bed in the first place? Now, I'm not saying the dog didn't just run away from you and it was afraid, but close some doors. Don't give the dog more freedom than it can be responsible for. And then every time that the dog is out, have it working on something that can be meaningful. I think that a lot of folks, if you get a new dog and you give them the free reign of the home and they're already afraid, they're going to find more ways to continue to be afraid. Here's another thing. If you're trying to build confidence, that means that you face some kind of obstacle, you overcome it, and it gets better as a consequence of that. Mm-hmm. But if you face an obstacle, you run away, and the obstacle is still there, you just actually became more afraid. You're not dealing with your fears, and we all have fears. Dogs have fears. I have fears. It's just a very normal part of being a sentient being, right? So you exist. You have fear. So teach the dog some skills and begin to show the dog who you are, because from your own personal strength, that's what your dog is going to rely on if it's a weaker dog. But even strong dogs, like Gabby is a particularly strong dog, but she relies on my confidence to be able to deal with situations that might be a little hairy for her. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, next.
Okay. How can I call my puppy?
Yeah, I thought, I saw that, and it was the question's pretty general, like, how can I call my puppy? So I decided that I was going to take this one because I wanted to go a few different ways. When I get a puppy, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, when I get a puppy, I don't immediately start using the name that I'm going to call them by. Especially like if I consider, let's just say that, you live on a gated property, or your home has a gate, because you got a pretty busy street out in front, and your gate sometimes is open and the dog could run out. Well, just imagine you're in your driveway, your dog is running out into Westheimer, for example, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden you're going to call your dog. Well, whatever command that I'm going to use in that circumstance, I'm going to hold that command in high regard, and I'm not going to overuse it in the beginning, because I just don't want the dog to be like, oh, hey, that name really means nothing. So how can you call your dog? Well, if you have a boy dog, all my boy dogs, when I first get them, their names are Buddy. And then when it comes to my girl dogs, their names, you know what it is? Puppy Girl. Mm-hmm. So you guys will hear me, like when I'm talking to dogs, like, good job, Buddy, good boy, Buddy, or good girl, Puppy Girl. And I use that as their name because, to me, it doesn't matter if they blow me off, because they still don't know, and so I'll use that. But then whenever I start organizing games like the treat toss game and other games like it, like playing two ball, then I'll begin to put their name in context anytime that they're moving towards me to receive any one of their rewards. And then, like with Gabby, what I ended up doing is Gabby's names were Puppy Girl, Gabby, and Gabriella. And as I did that, I kind of went through a little tier, like she perked up right there, a little bit of a tier. That Puppy Girl, I didn't care if she blew me off. Gabby, I did care if she blew me off. And then Gabriella, that's really the performance one, the one that I want her to come the fastest that she possibly can. And I try to do a really good job of only associating that to the highest level of rewards for her. So those are some different things that you can do to call your puppy, but please don't overuse their name.
There was another one on Instagram. I guess it's fair. It wouldn't be fair if we didn't ask this one.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It's a good one. What training a dog to sleep in a certain area? Is that place training?
Yeah, no, I think it's crate training. Like if you want to train a dog to sleep in a certain area, a crate is a fantastic way to do that. When I get crates for puppies, we want to make it super comfortable for them. I make it real comfortable for them on the inside. One thing that you got to be a little careful with, and I'm going to give some advice I haven't used here in a little bit, like everybody wants to get their dogs really comfortable spots to be able to lay on. And so you'll buy this bed for your Belgian Malinois puppy, and then you wake up the next morning and you don't have a bed anymore. You just have the remnants of a bed. So, and you could try to buy these really tough, ballistic beds, but, some of them are, some of them are still going to get destroyed by puppies. So here's two things that you could do. So there's a store here nearby called Tractor Supply. Maybe you guys have heard of it. Maybe I'm sure there's other feed stores that carry some things that are similar. But at Tractor Supply, they carry a rubber mats that they use inside of horse stalls. And so what I end up doing is I end up taking that rubber mat, I take a box cutter and I cut the rubber mat and put it inside of the crate. And then that becomes a comfortable place for the dog to lie. Now, one other thing that's kind of advice I haven't given in a while is getting a small square bale of hay for your puppy and putting that inside of their crate is a fantastic way to bring a lot of comfort and to teach them to sleep there. Now, yes, I do realize that the hay is probably going to get all over the place, but if you have a dog, then you're vacuuming or sweeping your house, every day, if not every other day, to kind of do that. So bringing comfort to the dog in the place that you want them to be is the answer. But with these dogs that are very mouthy, that don't necessarily sleep very well, they will end up destroying beds if you buy something that's on the higher end. So get you the rubber mat, the hay, or something that's inexpensive that you don't mind the puppy destroying.
So like if you just want your dog to stay on the couch and not come join you in the bed, you have to specifically
I think you should. And couches are hard because it's kind of like this table. You guys can see it. So there's like a seam right here, but I don't know how many times I've brushed over the seam since I've been talking. It's so hard to where's the boundary? And I think puppies.
So the crate just.
I think the puppies need to know boundaries. I think they need to know boundaries, and if you use a crate, well, then obviously it's a boundary that's almost impenetrable by the dog, right? Almost like dogs destroy those, but make it super super comfortable. But I've also seen. I'm not opposed to even those soft crates. But boy, I'm real reluctant to give the advice to the majority of dogs. I'm not going to say all of them, but there's some dogs out there that have some serious mouths when they're puppies. Any of these herding dog breeds, your Malinois, your German Shepherd, Rottweilers, Dobermans, these are really mouthy dogs. Your Beaucerons, hi Jamie, your Beaucerons, any of these, you put them inside of a soft kennel. It won't be there in the morning. You'll just have the little frame that it was part of. But, some other dogs, I can think of a Cocker Spaniel or a Shih Tzu, maybe a Corgi. And, but maybe that's a little iffy. Some of these dogs are actually going to do pretty well inside of soft containment. But leaving them free to sleep anywhere that they want, it's going to create problems. I just had another thought. If you just got a puppy and you're here in Houston, this doesn't apply to you if you live in, if you're watching this in Alabama no, it does. It does apply to Alabama. If you live in Las Vegas, or Colorado, this does not apply. But if you have a dog, if you live on the Gulf Coast, or by any major ocean, okay, the Gulf of Mexico, the Pacific, the Atlantic, or anywhere else in the world that you're by this huge body of water, you need to crate train your dog, because heaven forbid you ever have to evacuate your city because of a hurricane, a tsunami, or something like that. And I've been through it. If you need to be in a car for hours on end and you have a dog that isn't crate trained, heaven help you. Heaven help you, because it's not going to be that easy of a thing. So crate train your dogs, because we never know when we're going to have to evacuate, and nobody likes thinking about that, but it's our responsibility to prepare so that way our dogs can do that. There's a car that I really want to buy. The reason I haven't bought the car is because I can't put a crate in that car, and I haven't sold enough dog training services yet to own more than one car, but that's okay. We're working on that. So I own a vehicle that would, in the worst case scenario, worst case scenario, is that right? Yeah, worst case scenario, that I would be able to get the dogs out of here.
That's true. Good point. Okay, we can move on now.
Yeah, we haven't put this up yet. There we go. Can I? Maybe I wonder if I messed up the screen by doing that here. Oh, I need to move this way. Yeah. So hey guys, if y'all can see that, is that on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, That's
Yeah, I'm
intense.
kind of wondering, is it on there? Well, like, hey guys, I just want to show you this. Like, we've got, like, we're on so many different forms of social media. Yes, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm in your Amazon Echo. That's why I have, have this right here. Yep, I'm obviously on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're even
The ring light in your glasses.
yeah, like I noticed that. You can see I had something going on with my eye a couple of weeks. I hadn't told you about this, but I had something going on with my eye a couple of weeks ago, so I stopped wearing my contacts because like it would not stop itching.
No, I guess I didn't see it.
Yeah, I wonder is it going to put it up there or not. So.
I don't know how.
But anyway, like, hey, well, you probably can't see the icons that we see here on the screen.
Go follow us on all the social media.
Just go follow me. I'm really, really, really. If you're 13 or 14 years old right now and you're watching this, thank you so much for watching my show. But I think I'm gonna post a TikTok video here pretty soon.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be any good. I'm not saying it's gonna be any good, but I may or may not. Yay, there we go. I figured it out. I may or may not actually be on on TikTok. It should be on the screen now. So hey guys, those are all there to, like, I can't do it like the newscasters. There, okay. There to there. There's all our social media. It would mean a lot to me if you guys would follow that. Hey, if you're enjoying the live show tonight, I know I kind of am. It's kind of fun. So please make sure that you smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Mandy's really helping me out a lot. We're putting out a massive amount of content. And if you guys know me, I love cameras. I just got a new camera. Actually, I'll show you guys because it's right here. I just got this brand new camera right here. And so for any of you guys that care, this is did I just turn it on? Maybe. This is the Insta360 1X, and it's going to make it a lot easier for me to be able to film my dog training sessions, because I've really been wanting to do that, but golly, the camera that I had that I thought that was going to be able to do that just makes the workflow so incredibly hard. But now with this camera, I'm really excited about some of the things. I captured some stuff over the weekend. I got some remote collar stuff. I started a new German Shepherd puppy. I'm going to be taking this out with me tomorrow and capturing some more. So really excited to share more of what I'm doing on a daily basis with the dogs and that training. Hopefully it's going to bring you value. We're going to continue, and I'm going to continue to make 1 to 2 virtual reality videos a week. So if you have an Oculus Go, if you have the brand new super cool Oculus Quest, install the YouTube VR app on there, and then you can go on there and watch some. Like, we have a playlist. Like, how many videos are in there right now? Like 30 or 40?
Sure.
Yeah, there's probably 30 or 40 videos that are on there right now. And they're in 3D virtual reality. And so we're working on the audio. Some of them don't have the greatest audio, but we're going to go back and refilm those as I'm learning. I'm not a videographer. I am a dog trainer, that's for sure. So yeah, but check all those things out. I think they'll bring you guys a ton of value. Oh, and like today, I was working on our podcast. So it's not too far away. We're going to get three episodes ready in advance before we premiere episode number 1 of Rough Talk. That's the name of our podcast. So really excited about that. So that way you can listen and get these dog training tips while you're driving in your car. So, all right. So I think I do that. What does this do? Yeah, see that? If you see that anywhere on the screen, just smash that. Let me see what this one does. Oh yeah, that's the notification bell. So if you could subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell, that would also mean a lot to me, because then you get all these you get the live show, you get the dog training tips, you get the virtual reality dog training, you get all these other cool things. So, hey, if I hadn't already said it, guys, y'all mean the world to me that y'all are actually here, spending your time with me tonight, watching the show. If you're watching this in the future, I'm really very grateful that you're here. Thank you for your attention. I couldn't do this without you. So, all right, let's go maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Okay. Can you compare training a cat to training a dog?
I just can't. Like, 'cause cats are like, I don't know, like they're really difficult. And, and I watch.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least, man. They're just really, really difficult. Now, I listened to Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. If you guys don't know him, just a guy that's filled with knowledge. I really enjoy him. He's a psychologist from Canada. But anyway, just listening to his podcasts and stuff, and he has a book called 12 Rules for Life, and one of the rules for life is pet a cat. When you're out on the street, just go and pet a cat. And so I've been doing that. I've been like when I'm out, like I'm getting out, and if I see a cat and it's not a football field away, then I'll go over there and I try to pet it. And it's been really nice actually petting some cats. And like I think I saw something on your wall recently, like that.
Their purring is like at the same hertz that it has healing. Their purring heals basically broken bones or something.
Or something, yeah, but that's pretty interesting.
There's something about the vibrations of the cat's purr actually has healing powers.
I wonder if we can purr that way too, and if that will actually heal anything.
I don't think they can.
You don't think so? You don't think so? Okay.
No.
All right. So give me what? Yeah. So cats, like I'm not a cat trainer, but
kids now, dog training and kids, you can.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a lot of similarities there.
All right. Well, how do I stop my puppy from tearing up my carpet?
Just having a good management plan. You need a good management plan for your puppy. Getting your family members involved. Like that's something I see that we're like, hey, we're gonna get Timmy this dog, and then everybody abdicates responsibility, and Timmy's like 9 years old and says, I want a puppy, and you got him a Belgian Malinois. So like that's kind of like if y'all hear me, like I've said Belgian Malinois a lot, and I love the breed, man. I absolutely love them. But like getting a Belgian Malinois for your 9-year-old that wants a puppy is like getting your 16-year-old a Lamborghini. Like it's just a bad idea. It's just a really bad idea. But look, if you're dog savvy and you've had dogs for some time, and you've been around them, you've been raising them and stuff, then getting you a dog like that might be kind of cool. But when it comes to the pup, like what's the question again?
About tearing up carpet.
If your puppy is tearing up a lot of carpet, you got to look at like where were you when they were doing it? And I don't ever blame a puppy for anything that they do wrong because they're just really acting out on their instincts. And the dog is exploring where are the boundaries. And a human has to set those boundaries because if not, then your walls and your carpet become the boundary and they get destroyed as the dog tries to figure out, well, hey, can I manipulate this?
Yes.
That's why a lot of puppy owners, they have like lots of bites and scratches on their arms because puppies are looking to see, how far the human's going to let me go. And sometimes you run into a case where you've been letting your puppy go and they're now a 20-month-old dog, and then anybody that walks in the home, they're showing their teeth and they're doing all this. So you have to teach the puppy boundaries. And so the way to not get carpet torn up is by supervising your puppy, by making sure that they're adequately stimulated by something that's meaningful to them, and then not giving them the opportunity to tear things up that you value. I think that's it. So is there anything on there, anything else that's, it's good.
Yeah, I mean.
That's a good, that's pretty good.
Call it a night?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
Well, hey guys, we really appreciate y'all watching the show tonight. If you enjoyed it, if you got anything out of it, please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you got out of it. If you have questions that you didn't get to ask, and you want me to answer them on episode number 44, make sure that you leave those in the comment section, and I'll come back to those later on. But again, we appreciate you. So good job, Mandy. Thanks again. And hey, you guys have a good night. Take care.